Hi, it's me again, and I've got quite an interesting one for you today. In front of me here, I have a document called TV Licensing Visiting Procedures. And this is the document that is given to all new TV license inspectors, goons, whatever you want to call them. This is the document that they have to work by. And it was sent to me by one of you brilliant people out there who found it on a Freedom of Information request. And you can find the whole document, because I'm not going to talk about the whole thing, because it's quite long. And it would make a couple of hour long video, which no one wants to be sitting through really, do they? But it's quite an interesting read, so I will link the PDF below and you can go and have a look yourself. But I picked out a few highlights that I thought was interesting that we could have a look at that's going to shine a bit more light on how these TV licence enforcement officers work. Let's have a look, shall we? So right at the beginning of the document, we find this. Overview of Visiting 1.0. These documents provide a set of procedural instructions to be followed by all Capita staff who carry out TV licensing visiting, generically referred to as visiting officers and specifically referred to as enforcement officers throughout this set of procedures. So I'm not going to say enforcement officer or visiting officer every time, so if I say VO or EO, you know what I mean now, alright? It's just the Capita goons. The need to treat each visit confidentially and to make the inquiry without causing offence is paramount. The without causing offence bit's quite interesting, isn't it? Because I think we've all seen some videos where some TV licence inspectors, goons, whatever, have caused some offence. And we've all heard stories about it as well, haven't we? So let's carry on. So 1.2, when making a visit. So this should be good. This is laying out how they conduct their visits when they knock on your door. Let's have a look. EOs are expected to 1. Always provide their identity by showing their identity card on request and provide a telephone number so that this can be confirmed. Now, I haven't heard of them providing a telephone number before, but then I do tell people not to talk to them. But some of them are a bit iffy about handing over their identity card to show people. So that's interesting. Point 2. Always state why they are visiting. Point 3. Be polite and courteous at all times. This extends to any notes written about the customer/interviewee. Now they are getting a bit hotter on the being polite and courteous at all times bit, mostly because everyone's filming them now or got Ring doorbells and that. But we get to filming it, there's a bit about filming in here, we'll get to that in a minute. Oh, and also, before I forget, the bit about being courteous at all times in the written notes and everything is because you can request a copy of those notes. So now they have to be really nice in the notes and can't put he was a rude git, wouldn't let me in. All that, they have to be nice because you can request your notes. Point 4. Conduct inquiries firmly and fairly and in the least intrusive way possible. Well, if you're going to conduct inquiries firmly and fairly in the least intrusive way possible, don't knock on people's doors because that's quite intrusive. Point 5. Never threaten or intimidate and to stop the inquiry if asked to leave. Now, I've seen quite a lot of videos where they've been asked to go and they've carried on talking. So hopefully they are going to start paying attention to that part. Now, point 6 is an important one. So point 6, only enter a property when given permission. It's important to remember if you're new to this whole thing, they don't have any powers of entry or anything like that. They can only come in if you let them in. Now, one point I'm asked a lot, and I've seen a lot of videos on it as well. You know, sometimes you see the videos on here of people who have filmed their goon visit and gone following them down the road to talk to them. One of the points they always raise in those videos, and I've had it asked of me many, many times, is that they do use their personal cars to conduct their business as a TV licensed goon. Are they properly insured for business use? Because you have to be, don't you? You're not commuting to a place to and from work. You're using your car for business use, thus it requires proper business insurance. And point 2.5 talks about that. Method of transport 2.5. Officially supplied vehicles, pool cars, private cars and public transport should be used as directed by the enforcement manager. Private cars must be fully insured for business use, roadworthy and registered with their enforcement manager for insurance purposes. Company cars should be kept clean and tidy at all times. Now, I'm not a legal expert, but if you do get visited by one and you see their car, I don't think it would hurt to take a picture or just to note down the registration number and report it to your local police, dialing 101, and just let them inquire if it is insured for business use, because you can't do that, can you? Say, I'm not a legal expert. I'm sure someone down in the comments can fill you in a bit more on what we could do about that. But it's worth checking. If one turns up in a private car, they should be reported to have the police check if they are correctly insured for the usage of that vehicle. Surely. Right, so on to an interesting one. Paragraph 7.2. Photographing slash videoing of an EO during a visit. So this is when you, the person, the homeowner, whatever, opens the door and you are filming them on your phone or your Ring doorbell or your CCTV, whatever. This is what they have to say in their book of what the enforcement officers have to do. There is no law prohibiting an individual from taking either photographs or video footage of an EO conducting a visit on private property, or on public land, I should say. Accordingly, the EO should not, under any circumstances, confront or try to prevent an occupant who wishes to do so. Well, in pretty much everyone I've seen, they're kicking off about it and they don't like it. You can't film my face without my permission. It's in your book, paragraph 7.2, we can. If an EO finds themselves in a situation where they are being photographed or videoed, they must remain calm and continue to conduct themselves in a professional manner. Again, we have seen quite a lot of them kick off. Plenty of videos on here where they don't like being filmed. Point them into paragraph 7.2. You should all, any goons watching, pay attention to your own book, paragraph 7.2. The EO may continue the visit despite the existence of filming equipment if they deem it safe and appropriate to do so. All instances of filming slash photography must be notified to a manager as soon as possible and a full report provided. How many of the ones who kicked off on YouTube about being filmed filed a report with their manager? Well, hopefully their manager probably watched it on YouTube anyway. So they have a little flowchart thing of their visit process. But what I found interesting about that isn't the flowchart itself. I'll put it on the screen here now, look. So visit process, page 1. So this is all the flow that they have to go through. And blah, blah, blah. You can pause it if you want to see it. But on the second part of this, you will see, down in the middle, look, knock on door / ring the doorbell. Is the door answered, yes or no? No. And redacted, redacted, redacted. What is the information there that they didn't want us to see? Interesting, right? And also, on the third part of this, you'll see here, are there reasonable grounds for suspecting an offence may be being committed? Yes. Are there any special considerations? Redacted, redacted. What? What information is there that they don't want us to know? I just find that interesting. Anytime something like that is redacted, it should ring alarm bells. It does to me. Maybe I'm just too suspicious for my own good, eh? Right, on to paragraph 3.1. Right of entry to premises. So this is important. If you're worried about getting a visit, this is important. Any person has the right to knock on the front door of premises, but must leave when requested by the occupier. Yeah, so if you do get a visit from one of these people, open the door, they say from TV licensing, say, no thank you, please go, shut the door, and they have to go. Paragraph 3.1 says they must leave when asked to. There is no right of entry to a house or any part of the premises except with the consent of the occupier or other lawful authority such as a search warrant. If the customer requests that the EO leave the premises, they must do so immediately. I mean, I've seen a couple of videos on here, I think it was a woman one, and she repeatedly, probably 10 times, asked him to go, and he still stood there asking questions. So, are they even reading this? I think we've probably read it more than most of them have, eh? So continuing on this bit of the subject, paragraph 3.5, having been given permission to enter the premises, either by permission of an occupier or by implicit permission by way of an open door allowing access to a communal area, an EO is entitled to carry out their inquiries. Yeah, I've heard this a lot. People who live in blocks of flats, they won't ring your bell specifically to talk to you because you'll just tell them to bugger off and you won't buzz them in, will you? So they tend to buzz other people's doors or pretend to be something important or just wait for the door to open and then go through looking official and knock on your door directly, which weirdly is allowed. Odd, isn't it? But don't forget you can ask them to leave. An EO should endeavour to conduct all inquiries at those premises, but if asked to leave by an occupier or security guard, they should do so. In such circumstances, a full report must be made to the enforcement manager. He gets a lot of reports, that enforcement manager, doesn't he? So this leads us down to paragraph 4, which is important for me because this involves me. I declare myself as no licence needed, and this is the section about people like me who have declared themselves no licence needed. So conducting no licence needed, unconfirmed, no set UNS type visits. These types of visits are normally produced following the householder having made a declaration they do not require a licence, i.e. they do not use any equipment to watch or record TV programmes as they are being broadcast. Now, you don't need me to tell you what no licence needed is. I talk about it all the time here. The main point here that I find really interesting is, look at this, 4.2, 4.3, 4.6, 4.7 and 4.8, all redacted. All redacted. What are they hiding there? Is it the tough sell tactics? Is it the stitching people up tactics that they have? Why is it redacted? It should not be allowed to be redacted, surely. It's ridiculous. Right, only a few more points to get through that I found. Like I say, if you want to read the full thing, I'll put the link below. I'm only skimming through a few bits that I found personally interesting. So, point 5.1. If a TV set is visible on the premises, this must be annotated in the comments box on the visit. And then more redacted information. So are they saying this must, if they can see a TV through your front door, even if you're watching Netflix or you've got the YouTube main screen up or something, so there's no evidence or anything of you watching broadcast TV, they have to write it in their comments box on their PDR or their paperwork, whatever, and then redacted information. So is it so we can use this as leverage later to sell a license? Is that what's there in the redacted bit? Who knows? Confirmed no license needed 3.0. In line with BBC policy, all visits that result in a confirmed no license needed, i.e. no television receiving equipment installed or being used to watch TV programmes that are being transmitted, blah blah blah, must only be used when a customer has allowed an EO access to inspect the premises and the EO is fully satisfied that no television receiving equipment is installed on the premises or being used to receive TV programmes as they are being transmitted. So you have gone to the effort personally, like myself, of letting TV licensing know, even though you don't have to, you've let them know you do not require a television licence and you know what you can and can't do. If you get a knock on the door, their job in life is to get into your property to check that. They're assuming guilt. They shouldn't even be turning up if you've said you don't require a television licence. Why do you need to come to my house and why do you want to request access to check my stuff? What business is it of yours? I have told you I don't require a television licence. Now you can leave me alone. Contact me in 2 years with another letter. I will allow that, even though I think that bit's bloody ridiculous. This is shocking, isn't it? So you've gone to that effort, no licence needed. They're going to knock on your door. Well, we need to make sure you're no licence needed. We need to come in. It's assuming guilt, and it's wrong. 3.4. In every case, the customer should be informed that the contact will only cease while there is no television receiving equipment being used on a premises to watch TV programmes as they are being transmitted. Well, that's why I did the low licence needed form, so you can cease your contact. If television receiving equipment is used in the future to watch TV programmes as they're being transmitted, a licence will be required. Yes, we know that. You don't need to tell us. You'll stop talking to us when we buy a licence. That's basically what that is. We'll stop visiting you and sending you letters when you buy a licence. That's what that is. 7.7. Where access has been refused and the EO has reasonable grounds, redacted again. What are they saying there? Like if they saw a telly through the front window or something. Is that what they're saying there? Because they're not supposed to do that. To believe that evasion is taking place, the person being interviewed must be advised that it may be necessary to seek the grant of a search warrant. So that redacted bit probably is, if we saw a telly through the window, that could be grounds to get a search warrant. That's only a guess, it's only a guess. But the important part here, threat of a search warrant must not be used to gain access to premises. Although it does say there, the person being interviewed must be advised that it may be necessary to seek the grant of a search warrant. And then it finishes with the threat of a search warrant must not be used to gain. You're basically saying, tell them we'll get a search warrant, but you can't threaten them with it, but tell them you can't threaten them, you can't. Ridiculous, ridiculous. So the next bit I want to talk about is the withdrawal of implied rights of access. I get this question a lot on this channel, a lot. I get loads of emails about it. And I've always said, don't waste your time, don't bother with it. All it's going to do is put a red flag on your address. And TV License Resistance Forum, I'll put a link below. I learn a lot of what I know from over there and I talk to them and stuff. And if you have any serious questions, over there is a great place to stop by. They've filled my head with a lot more useful information than I had when I started this journey. They are also against this, but what does it say for the visiting officers? What does it say about it for them? Let's have a look. 7.11. A common law implied right of access to a property exists for anyone that has a legitimate reason to be on or visit the property. The implied right allows callers to come to the front door if they have legitimate business with the occupier. They don't have an implied right to start with then, do they? Because they do not have legitimate business with the occupier. If you've told them you don't require a television license and they're coming to check on that, that's not legitimate business. If you've been blanking them because you don't want to buy it and they're coming to knock on your door to sell you one, again, I don't class that as legitimate business personally. EOs have a legitimate purpose for their visits to collect and enforce the TV licence and therefore have such an implied right of access. Point 7.12. An occupier of the property has the right to withdraw this implied right of access for certain people or groups of people to set foot on their property and knock on their door. Withdrawn implied rights of access must be respected by TV licensing, since EOs would be committing trespass if they visited the address after the right of access had been withdrawn. So I thought that was quite interesting actually. They do accept withdrawal of implied rights of access, they do. And they say if they go on there when it's been withdrawn, that's a trespass. But from what I understand, and I'm very limited on my legal knowledge, if trespass is a civil matter, and if you trespass on someone's property and they ask you to leave, you must go. So how is it any different? Because they're saying there at the top of their document, if they're asked to leave, they must go. So it's not any different, is it? So I still don't see the point, personally. But it is interesting that they address it in their paperwork, isn't it? Don't you think? So as I said earlier, this was sent to me by one of you brilliant people who found this Freedom of Information request and sent it over to me so I can make a video and share it with all of you. Now, if you do want to send me something, you'll find the links below on how to do that. And I'll look forward to receiving your letters or any interesting stuff that you find that you might want me to make a video out of, or just to comment on, or just to reply to you about. Do contact me. Details are down there. No problem at all. While you're down there, don't forget to leave your comments about this as well, and we'll have a bit of a chat about it, and hit the like button, subscribe button, all the stuff that people on YouTube bloody say at the end of all their videos for some reason. I don't know why. And I'll see you in another video again soon. Thank you for watching.